This is the Stock Market Daily News podcast for Monday, March 9th, 2026. I'm your host, and here's your quick, energetic rundown of the major market moves from Friday, March 8th. U.S. equities wrapped up a volatile week with the S&P 500 closing down 0.7%, the Dow Jones falling just under 0.5%, and the Nasdaq losing nearly 1%. Tech led to the downside, while energy stocks bucked the trend thanks to a surge in oil prices. The headline story: Middle East tensions sent crude oil racing past $100 a barrel, sparking ripple effects across stocks, currencies, and even crypto. Stay tuned to hear how this turbulence could shape your next investment move. Let's dive into the top stories every investor needs to know. First up, oil shocks are back in the spotlight. Murban crude, a key Middle East oil benchmark that avoids the Strait of Hormuz, traded above $103 per barrel for the first time since 2022. This move follows the effective closure of Hormuz amid military conflict between Iran, Israel, and the U.S. Energy stocks rallied on Friday. Occidental Petroleum jumped 4% to close near $73, while ExxonMobil climbed 2.7%, ending at over $121. But the real question: can higher oil prices fuel inflation and force the Fed to rethink its rate cut plans? Investors should watch for knock-on effects throughout risk assets, especially if oil stays elevated. Next, dividend investing is making a comeback as Treasury yields retreat. 10-year yields slipped to 4.09%, down from recent highs, and some analysts now favor dividend stocks over government bonds for income. Funds like SCHD, the Schwab U.S. Dividend ETF, saw record inflows of nearly $800 million last week. It's currently yielding 3.6% and is up over 12% year-to-date, outpacing the S&P 500. For those seeking stability and consistent payouts in shaky markets, the shift from bonds to dividend stocks is a trend to watch. Meanwhile, small-cap carnage continued in India, but a handful of stocks bucked the sell-off. Jindal Polyfilm soared 25%, and Hindustan Oil Exploration rallied 20% on investor appetite for energy plays. However, the Nifty 50 dropped almost 3% on the week, weighed down by foreign investor outflows of nearly $2 billion in March alone. Experts warn that high oil prices and persistent geopolitical uncertainty could keep foreign institutional investors on the sidelines, with domestic funds left to absorb the pressure. Turning to the big picture, billionaire investor Jim Mellon sounded alarms on U.S. stock valuations. He called U.S. equities way overpriced, highlighting stretched multiples and record margin debt, and prefers energy, gold, and international markets instead. It's a reminder that while the S&P 500 remains near historic highs, veteran voices are urging caution and a closer eye on sector allocation. Finally, Japanese energy security is in focus as the government instructed oil reserve sites to prepare for possible releases. With the country relying on the Middle East for nearly 95% of its crude and shipments through Hormuz disrupted, Japan's emergency stockpile could step in to curb supply shocks, signaling the far-reaching effects of the current crisis. To recap, the S&P 500 finished at 4,952, the Dow closed at 38,300, and the Nasdaq ended at 15,710. Key themes: surging oil, dividend stock demand, global volatility, and defensive posturing. Looking ahead, keep an eye on upcoming inflation data and any new signals from the Federal Reserve, with central banks poised to respond to shifting markets. That's your Stock Market Daily News Wrap. To stay ahead of Wall Street, subscribe, visit our website, and follow us for your daily rundown. See you tomorrow.